in the world. There's just no competition. This is it. These are the best. Everybody else lost. This is it. No jokes. Okay, so the only technical piece of equipment that you'll need to cook this recipe is a sous vide machine. If you don't have that, you can't really make it because it's really essential for this recipe. It just makes the ribs so tender, it's crazy. Okay, so let's get cooking. Let's go. Okay, so we're gonna start off by making a spice rub. I'm gonna use a food processor just to mix the ingredients together. Now I'm gonna add 25 grams of salt, followed by 25 grams of sweet paprika powder, and then 5 grams of smoked paprika powder, and 25 grams of brown sugar. Just gonna shake that out, and there we go. And then 8 grams of garlic powder, followed by 12 grams of onion powder, and 4 grams of black pepper. These are corns, but you can also just use grinded black pepper, and 2 grams of cayenne pepper. Okay, now I'm just gonna blend these ingredients together so that they're nice and mixed and so the peppercorns also break down. So I'll just turn it on. Now it's a good idea also sometimes to shake your machine like this just to make sure that it doesn't layer up and doesn't mix evenly. Okay, so once it's done, then you just want to turn this off, and then you've got a delicious spice rub that you can add to any kinds of meats and preferably barbecue them. So now I'm going to get the ribs and add this stuff to it. Okay, so here we go, a rack of ribs. I'm going to place it into a container so I don't make a big mess, and I'm just going to spoon out some of this spice rub and just lay it over it nice and evenly so it covers it. Now I'm just going to flip it over and apply it to the other side as well. Just like this. And now what you can do now is just shake it off and then use your rack of ribs, or you can go the extra mile and rub it in, hence the name spice rub. Okay, once you've rubbed it in nice and evenly and you've got it covered fully, then you want to add your ribs into your sous vide bag. This is a sous vide bag. It's a special bag designed for air to be vacuumed out of it. Okay, I'm just going to place my rack of ribs inside, and since it's a bit long, I'm just going to curl it over at the end so that it fits into this bag. Now I'm just going to add my other rack of ribs. Great. And now I'm going to vacuum seal it, so I'm just going to bring it towards my machine, open it up, and place it in until the area where you're supposed to. Then close the machine, and then simply hit the button that makes it vacuum and seal the air. So basically now it's just sucking all the air out so that there's no air in there, and then it seals it up so you can cook it inside a sous vide cooking machine. Okay, and there we go, it's ready to be cooked in a sous vide machine. Alright, so now to cook the ribs. You want to place them into a sous vide cooking bath like this at 60 degrees Celsius for 48 hours. That's 2 days. And at the end of it, you'll have a super tender rack of ribs like this one, and you can keep it in the fridge for a few more days if you need to. Okay, now to make the barbecue sauce. You want to start off by taking 140 grams of brown sugar and 20 grams of salt and heating it up until it melts. That's the end of the salt there, and this is it melting. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you melt all the sugar, and when it starts to bubble, just like this, then you want to just use your spatula and mix it around just to get it nice and evenly melted. At this stage, you want to leave it to cook for about 30 seconds to 45 more seconds, and then you want to add your ketchup. This is Heinz ketchup, 1 kilogram. Don't use any other brands, just use Heinz ketchup, it's the best one. Once you've added that, then you want to take your spatula again and just mix it in, just to make sure the bottom isn't burning, and just continue cooking a little bit while you add the rest of the ingredients, which will be 20 grams of black pepper, 3 grams of cayenne pepper, 6 grams of garlic powder, 6 grams of onion powder, 3 grams of smoked paprika, 20 grams of mustard. Okay, nearly got all of it. Okay, one little bit more, there we go. And 170 grams of concentrated tomato paste. Once you've got all that in there, then you add 80 grams of vinegar, and 80 grams of apple cider vinegar, followed by some Jack Daniel's whiskey. 100 grams of Jack Daniel's whiskey. Okay, at this stage you just want to mix the sauce, just to incorporate all the ingredients, and then you want to put it on a low cooking temperature and cook it for a long time, about 2 to 3 hours. And you want to check regularly and just mix it with a spatula and make sure there's nothing at the bottom of the pan sticking or burning. So just come back to it every 20-30 minutes and just give it a little turn around, control the heat, make sure it's going good. And if you need to, add some water and then mix that in to make sure that it doesn't burn. Okay, so continue cooking this, and this sauce is now finished. I'm going to let it cool down and I'm going to add 25 grams of freshly squeezed lemon juice. There we go. And at this stage you can feel free to add a little bit more whiskey or a little bit of salt or whatever you want to your taste, just to finish the sauce off. Okay, so there we go. My barbecue sauce is done. Moving on. So now to unpack the ribs for barbecuing. Now these ribs have been in the fridge for about a day. And I like to do this because it hardens up the ribs, because after the sous vide cooking they're super tender and soft and they fall apart. So if you put it into the fridge for at least a few hours, then it's more manageable and easier to cook. But they'll still be super tender later once they're cooked. So here I'm just going to cut the ribs in half, because as I said, they're super tender, so half a rack of ribs is less likely to break apart on the barbecue than a whole rack of ribs. So now that I've done that, I'm going to head over to the barbecue. Okay, so now to lay your rack of ribs on the barbecue, you want to put them not on top of the fire but slightly off to the side. And then you want to just cook it, just take your time, give it a few minutes, and once it starts to get done, you just turn them over. And as you can see, the rub starts to go from a sort of matte to a glossy, and that's what you want to start seeing before you apply the barbecue sauce. And at this stage you want to add the barbecue sauce. So just take a brush and lather that barbecue sauce on and try to make it cover it as evenly as possible, and then just flip it over. Okay, so I'm just going to turn it around, and as you can see now, you can start to see the bones, and that's because the meat's so tender it's starting to pull away from the bones and fall apart. If you overcook it, it could just break apart on the barbecue. Now I'm just going to add some more barbecue sauce, just like this. Just lather it on, be as generous as possible. More barbecue sauce is always better, and this stuff's delicious, so you really want to get a lot on there. Now you just want to flip it over one more time, just to make sure that barbecue sauce gets cooked with the ribs a little bit. I really think it improves the flavor of the barbecue sauce and the ribs at the same time. So just add a little bit more barbecue sauce, and now I'm going to put these on a plate so I can start the eating process. They feel like they're about to fall apart here. Okay, so now to eat the barbecued ribs. Now, you don't need a knife. Forget that, just a spoon's good enough. Look at that bone, it just fell out of there because they're so tender. And that's because the 48 hours in the sous vide machine, what happens in that process is it turns the tough collagen that's in the meat to soft gelatin. And then they become super juicy and just, they fall apart. And it's just the best experience you can ever have in ribs. I urge you to give this a try. There we go, delicious. Okay, so now you know how to make one of the best rack of ribs in the world. And I don't say that lightly, I seriously mean it, because everybody that I've given this rack of ribs cooked this way has just been amazed, because it doesn't compare to any other ribs they've had in their life. It's like a completely different thing at a different level. It's just so tasty and so soft and so tender and just falls apart. It hits every mark just right. It's just perfection in ribs. I don't think it can get any better. Yeah. So it's just so crazy. I mean, even if you were full and you just tried a little bit of them, then you just would keep eating it, because you're not eating out of hunger, you're just eating out of pure lust. It's just amazing. Anyway, I hope you give this a try at home, and I hope you can, taste these for yourself. It's a really good experience. I guess that's all. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my channel so you can see future videos when they come out. Thank you for watching. See you guys next week. Goodbye.